Evening. Basically today, Man United have lost 2-1 away at Huddersfield, and I'm not surprised by this result in the slightest. Basically, if you look outside, it's getting kind of dark. The weather's kind of bad as well. And then if you look at just get that. There you go. See, the weather's not great outside. It's quite overcast down here in the south of England, but up north it is biblical. Storm Brian's kicked in. And the conditions, if you look at final score and if you watch match day tonight, you'll see the conditions are absolutely horrific. If you watch the game on Sky, you'll know that it was torrential rain by the end. So the weather might have had a part play in it. But everything I've heard off the pundits, so your Garth Crooks and Danny Mills, on final score when the game was still going on, is that Man United were very negative to begin the game. So they basically finished off. They carried on basically where they finished off against Liverpool, which was going out not to lose and being very conservative. Now Mourinho's been accused of being very anti-football, if you get what I mean, in the sense that he is a very conservative manager when he's ahead, or if he wants to keep the game tight. He does better when his team goes 1-0 down, except at this point they're already 2-0 down and the game is getting away from them by the time they actually score a goal midway through the second half. Huddersfield actually have had a pretty decent start to the season anyway. They're mid-table, but I've mentioned in previous videos with their academy having a shutdown and how the FA haven't helped them at all. So I have mentioned them in other videos, but this video is not about that. They just capitalised on sloppy United. United didn't have any tempo or any pace, and even Mourinho, if you watch his interview, he's very, very conciliatory. He's very praising of Wagner and Huddersfield, saying they were the better side, they deserve to win by more. But it's not the Mourinho interviews where he's normally very, very aggressive and assertive and blaming the referee and blaming how he's perfect. He was very, very meek in his assessment. He basically looks like he's not the Mourinho he was when he was at Chelsea the first time round. Maybe his second stint at Chelsea has damaged him somewhat, I don't know. But Huddersfield win 2-1. I haven't seen any of the goals. I was, catching up with final score. I've actually been up with other things today, but I will be watching the match today, and I will be watching the league football league shows on Channel 5. So I'll be getting all the highlights and watching all the highlights and then making assessments of where we go forward. There were some other interesting results, especially West Ham getting absolutely thrashed by Brighton at home last night as well. So that is another worry for Slaven Bilic. The fact that Huddersfield were the favourites to be the bottom, the last of the promoted sides, and actually basically the most likely to go down, they look like they're going to be safe. They've been competitive in every single game they've competed in. Newcastle are doing also remarkable things, and in fact all three promoted sides, this could be a season where all three promoted sides stay up by the looks of it, by the way they're playing, because Palace have lost again today. But the Man United result doesn't surprise me at all. The way Mourinho has been setting up his teams, and the way Man United have been playing since Ferguson left, was they, as a mindset, Man United themselves have been overly cautious and defensive for the last 5-6 years. We saw it under Moyes. We saw it under Giggs. Only got given a few games as caretaker, which was unfortunate because he didn't win all of them. But at the time, the morale was low. The club weren't going anywhere, and he was only given a few games basically to work with his ex-teammates. Van Gaal, as we know, we remember them getting absolutely hammered by MK Dons in the League Cup, amongst other things. So he was not. He finally won a trophy, but it wasn't a highlight career reel. They were overly defensive there. It was almost frustrating to watch them. And obviously on Mourinho, are they getting somewhere now with winning a few trophies last season? Who knows? What I will stress though, and I will stress this, they're back in Europe. They won the Europa League last year. They're back in Europe, Champions League, so they're playing tougher European opposition. But last year was the first season they were back in Europe for a while. So he's obviously got to contend with that with the whole squad rotation, which is fair enough. They won the League Cup last year as well, so they won 2 trophies last year. So it's not an unsuccessful season last year. But unfortunately, this is what gets me about how fickle fans are. When you get used to winning, you don't like losing a couple of games. Every club will go through a period where they're not at the top anymore. And this is what Leicester fans are just finding out, that they win their first trophy in a long time. They used to dominate the League Cup back in the 90s. They won several League Cups. They just got back into Europe last season, and yeah, they got to the quarterfinals. And now they're not. What we saw today was the Leicester City of Championship form when they won the title. From what we know, the way they played today was far better than when they played around the area. This is listening to the pundits. Now, one game does not make a season. However, it might save their season. They're on the up. If you take Man City out of the equation, because they will eventually run out of steam, we've got to see what their European campaign does to them. I mean, all the English sides, apart from Everton, have done really well in Europe this week. Really, really well. But if you look at the results today, Bournemouth won, Leicester won, Stoke lost. And this Stoke defeat means Bournemouth are back into it, into getting out of the bottom three. And this is still early in the season. And Bournemouth are one of those sides that are operating on a smaller budget. And obviously one of the smallest stadiums in the Football League, let alone the Premier League. It's a tiny stadium. So they're operating on reduced budgets and reduced income compared to your Old Trafford Man Utd's. But they won today and Man Utd lost. They had far more English players or British trained players that had come through the youth system on pitch, less imports. I mean, Chelsea won 4-2 and they had leapfrogged Watford. Now, Watford are actually doing quite well this season. They are a reasonable side. They're not no hopers like they used to be in the Premier League. And Chelsea and Watford have swapped places simply because Chelsea's goal difference. I think there's a point in it. And Watford are doing quite well and are pushing. And Newcastle also. Newcastle are sick. They won today 1-0 against Palace. Palace have lost yet again. Again, no scoring, which is why they scored in one game. It's the game they won against Chelsea. So, and they were saying on Final Score that if Benitez is given the backing, if this new owner does come in, and I God hope they do before the winter transfer window, the January transfer window, and Mike Ashley is gone. If he gets the right financial backing and the right structures in place, and the assistance he needs, they could, in theory, Keegan got close in the 90s, they could challenge for top four regularly. They are a club of that size that needs to, and they haven't done it for a very, very long time. Everton play Arsenal tomorrow. Now, Arsenal last week lost to Watford. Everton have been just lacklustre, and with the European incident this week, we shall see what happens. I think if they lose that, Coben's in real trouble. I feel sorry for him, but from what I'm hearing from Everton fans on the Twitter sphere, they're very, very critical of him. Very critical of him, and they're going around, and they're just saying they are shite. For a use of a better word, and this is quoting die-hard Everton fans who are on my Twitter feed, and they are basically saying that Everton are absolutely appalling. There's no passion in the side. They seem not to be the Everton of last season, with the same manager, bearing in mind. It's not like they've got a new manager in like Crystal Palace and have fallen apart. This is the same manager from last year and a core group of players that have been there for a while. They have lost a couple of players moving on or retiring. They have a few bits and pieces in play, but it is just basically speaking the same ownership, the same club, the same fan base. And something's gone wrong there. But they're not the only team to go from a decent season to a poor one. But towards the end of last season, they were on a bit of a skid. Has this form transferred over? That result will define whether Coleman goes or stays. But Moyes was in a similar position about 10 years ago, twice. 2005-2006, they were in a similar position in Europe, except they did horrifically in Europe. And didn't even make it through to the group stage of what was then the UEFA Cup. They were gone, they were out, and they were in a similar position in the league after so many games. They kept faith with Moyes at the time, and look where he guided them over the future years. They did quite well, they regularly got into Europe. Martinez, they're making comparisons with Koeman and Martinez. And yes, Martinez at this point last season was doing better. They replaced them obviously mid-season, but at this point in the season, Martinez had a better record. But Martinez is on the defensive side. Everton were woeful. I mean, they're not as bad defensively as in conceding goals, but they're not scoring enough, and they're doing a Man United. They're setting up not to lose instead of going out to win. It's the symptomatic of Dutch football. Look at Van Gaal. And Dutch football itself, they haven't even made it into the World Cup this time around. And Dutch football, with their results in the World Cup, has been masking many deficiencies within their game. And don't get me wrong, the Dutch have some brilliant players who play for them, but they need, as a league and as a country, need to rebuild. But anyway, the Man United result doesn't surprise me. The West Ham result doesn't surprise me. West Ham have not been the West Ham of Upton Park. They've been the West Ham of the London City Stadium, which is basically they don't want to be there. They miss their old home. There's the atmosphere. There's things wrong. And Slaven Bilic is a damn good manager. He's not a bad manager, and he's actually quite a character that you need them in sport. Arsenal, Everton, that could be like a 3-3 draw. Both managers are on a heavy flak at the moment. For a long time, Arsenal fans have wanted to get rid of Wenger. They've said he's overstayed welcome, even though he consistently gets them gets them to the final of the FA Cup regularly. He's won 3 out of the last 4. Consistently gets them in Europe. He's never missed a European berth while he's been manager. The lowest he's finished is 5th. Even when Tottenham finished above him, he still won a trophy and they didn't. So you've still got bragging rights in North London for silverware. But unfortunately, he's receiving a lot of negative criticism from Arsenal fans. Koeman is under a lot of pressure by Everton fans because for some reason they believe they're a world-class team. And I'm not disputing the passion of the fans, but your team is not that good. And you're not giving the support to the manager. Without the right financial backing and the right culture, a club ain't going to grow. Whether his tactics are all wrong, that is something to dispute. Leicester winning today have basically, under the same tactics that Craig Shakespeare would have used, because Appleton was his assistant and was backing him up the whole way, and the players were angry about the sacking. They were very surprised and very pissed off with the owners and backroom management. They got and won. Bournemouth winning. Palace losing yet again, not scoring yet again. The goal was an absolute freak. It was a clearance that bounced off the strikers and went in. But Palace can't score. Why was this not happening last season to this season? They've still got the same group of players. They've changed manager to a local British manager. I don't think he's the right person for the job. I think he's past it, but we'll leave that for another day. Very interesting weekend so far. I think Ronald Koeman will be the next managerial casualty. Maybe Mark Hughes, because Stoke are now in the bottom 3 and got basically lost 2 games. And they've had a decent record against Man City in previous seasons. So when they lost last week, got absolutely battered. And then today they lose 2-1 to a team that is now a point below them rather than 3 points below them. And they've slipped down the league. Is Mark Hughes under pressure? Anyway, I'm going to leave that there. What weekend's been so far? We've got another few fixtures left. And then the merry-go-round continues. Please like and subscribe if you are flicking your way through. Please leave your comments below. So it doesn't matter what league your team is in. My team, Blackburn, are in League 1. We won 3-0 to go against Portsmouth. I'm quite happy with that, considering that we lost our last weekend's game to Oldham 1-0 and then drew 1-1 in the week. My team are no longer in the Premier League. However, we have something that no Liverpool or Everton fan has in their trophy cabinet is a Premier League trophy. Yes, Everton and Liverpool have won more league titles and more trophies than us. However, they haven't won the league since I've been alive. And Everton haven't won a trophy since 1995. I'm just putting that one out there. I'm not belittling Merseyside, but there is a reason why you haven't won the league in a very, very long time. Or if you are an Everton fan, your team hasn't competed for a trophy in a very long time, and that comes down to club management behind the scenes. The managers you put out and the squads you put out are damn good squads, and they have damn good world-class players in, but not as much as they used to. But it's behind the scenes. That is where the problem lies. It does. And Liverpool came close a couple of years ago, finished second, and that was like a moment of please can they do it the season after, and then they fell away. It doesn't mean that Liverpool and Everton are suddenly crap. Just their competitors who've won leagues have won leagues because they've got things right on and off the field. Even if it's just for one season, like Leicester City or Blackburn Rovers, they got things right on and off the field, and they won. And your Man United's had consistency with management. Your Arsenals have had consistency with management. Chelsea have had decent financial backing. But the times they won the league, again, they gave the manager the tools for the job. So, there you go. Anyway, I'm going to leave that there, and I'll have another video for you again soon. Thanks very much for watching.